Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today. Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio, no pictures live stream. Please listen to this essay as you would a radio broadcast as you're driving along in your car or your truck, or put in those earbuds when you're in public transport. Sit back and take it all in. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the very controversial issue that's doing the rounds all over social media about the female boxer in the Olympic Games that dropped out after, I think, one hit or one strike or something, when she was up against a transgender opponent in the boxing ring. Now, there's a lot of talk about the poor little girl. She's just a little woman, a little tiny woman. Big bad man beat up little tiny woman. I don't buy any of that. I'm going to come from a different direction. Firstly, she's chosen a very body contact physical sport where getting donged on the head is kind of how it works. That's the purpose of getting into the ring. You obviously want to avoid being hit and hit the other guy more, that sort of thing. But she wanted to engage in a particularly pugilistic sport. And not that when she started out at the very beginning that she thought she'd be up against trans people, and I'll come back to that in a minute. But this idea that she's this tiny little helpless little girlie being put on by evil big bad man, and then she cries. She has a cry. That's bullshit. I don't accept any of that. Now, do I think that the trans folks should compete in the women's division of any sport? Well, no, I don't. I think there should be in my view, there should be a separate trans division or trans league, whatever you want to call it. And I think biological women should compete against biological women, men against men, and so on. So that's my view. Do I see women as being just this helpless little girly victims who cry into the camera? Well, no, I don't. I don't see things that way. And I don't like it that women are relegated to or perceived as. And women love this, and so do the activists, the feminist activists. They love the idea, well, we're equal, we're better than men, way better, but we're also little victims. Oh, we're little victims, little baby. And I don't buy that. I won't accept that. If you're equal to men, you're equal to men. You can't also have 100% victimhood and 100% we're better and equal and all that sort of stuff. So I don't accept that social discourse around that. Similarly, my own experience is different. I've dated a lot of very athletic chicks. I've dated 6 foot tall, chick athletes. Married a 5 foot 10.5 inch tall athlete, and she's very active in sports of all types. And less so now as we get older, but also I've been in martial arts and so on for quite some time, and I've competed against 230-pound women who are weightlifting champions, wrestling champions, judo, jiu-jitsu champions, and so on. So this idea of perceiving women as just helpless little girly victims, I don't accept that for a moment, and don't want to view women that way. As even as a younger guy, if girls would try and hit on me on the basis of I'm just a little girlie, I need a big strong man with big hairy chest to protect me from those. No, I'm not playing that game, seriously. So I wouldn't respond to that. There are still plenty of men around who think that way. A lot of them are soy boys, and they want to see themselves as big tough men. And this dual thing of helpless little tiny little girly victim, these big strong men to protect her, and she's equal and superior and morally superior and equal and better, that sort of stuff. I just won't buy into any of that. But coming back to the boxing now, if she's going to end up crying over getting donged in the head, wherever it's from, in the boxing ring with gloves, then she's in the wrong game. She should go and maybe get into horticulture or, I don't know, horse riding or something, but boxing's the wrong gig for her. This thing that she can I got hit in the head so I can go off and cry, then she's insane, even participating in that sort of sport where you are going to be hit. That's kind of how it works. But just talking broadly about the globalization, race, gender hustling, and trans hustling and all that sort of thing. the globalists have been trying to, because when you insert trans people into, well, women's sport in this case, then you're automatically creating a fault line of confrontation, which the globalists can then exploit to say, well, if you disagree with this, you're a bigot and a Nazi and a fascist and so on. And they're always dreaming up new ways of creating social division, where their automatic reflex response, which is all pre-scripted and pre-choreographed, is always to say, you're a Nazi. Now, governments all across the Western world for probably 15 years, I would think, around that anyway, have been moving towards having intergender sports, including body contact sports, judo, wrestling, that sort of thing, and also having inserting trans people and insisting that the proverbial black lesbian has to be on. So in a lot of sports, it was all volunteers and private donations, that sort of thing. The government has inserted themselves in there with taxpayer dollars, and they'll say, well, we'll give you these taxpayer dollars, but the strings attached are you have to have 50% of the people, training in, jiu-jitsu, whatever it is, training in your gym. 50% of the people have to be minorities, otherwise no money. And they'll also try and restrict and bar you from entering national competitions. They'll use obstructing methods there to say your registration isn't quite proper, and so they prevent athletes from that club participating in national tournaments and the like. Now, again, the talented kids who are, say, it could be boxing or anything. If you want to really test yourself, you've got to go into tournaments. That's where you find out if you're really up to it. You want to know how good you are, that's where you go, the tournaments. And the national tournaments are, among the best people, or the best competitors in that particular sport. Again, whether it doesn't matter, jiu-jitsu or boxing or anything like that, but we're talking body contact type sports. If you want to know how good you are, or if you've got your eye on competing, maybe at the national, international level, that sort of thing, then you must go to these tournaments. Not only to know how good you are, but to know what level are you at. Because if your ground game is no good, so say, I don't know, jiu-jitsu, for example, if your ground game's no good, then you need to improve on that. You need to maybe look out for special coaches that are renowned in that area. So you need to know how good so it's a strictly merit thing. Now, once they introduce, you've got to have 50% women and you've got to have minorities, you've got to have this, and the government gives money, straight away they're lowering the bar. And they're not only saying we want 50% women, but we want 50% women competing in the tournaments, and we want 50% of women have to have black belts and be the absolute A grade, and 50% of women have to, and so on and so forth, or 50% minorities. Now, to do this, of course, the otherwise merit-based sports, and again, it could be anything, judo and so on, the merit-based sports have to lower the bar. I mean, as in really lower the bar. And, I've seen women getting graded and being given, promotions as going from, to black belt and all this sort of thing. And they seriously, they wouldn't make entry level grades in for men. The grading is so soft that even if they turn up and get a quarter of the way through it, they're just given because the club's under pressure to do this, and if they don't do it, then they'll either have money taken away from them, or they can't. Their athletes can't compete in the tournaments, and they'll lose those athletes that pay fees to attend for the training that the sensei or the coach is giving, and so on. So there's a lot riding on it. There are clubs that have 30, 40 students turning up every night to study whatever the martial arts or the boxing, whatever is. And that revenue that the fees they pay for attending, the students pay, that revenue is essential to be able to afford to run the club and have the equipment there, the mats and the electricity and all that sort of stuff. But when the government comes in, then that pressure comes off. So if the club then has 50% of women or 50% minorities that are graded to a much lesser level. For example, I remember there was a very queenie gay guy, and he was being ginned up to do what was it? I think it was judo in this case, and he didn't even slightly pass. I mean, he didn't. Hopeless, and they gave him the grade because they needed that. They needed that diversity to tick that diversity box so they could continue getting government money. And in some cases they're outright bribes. You know, the owner of the club, you know, the main coach or whatever like that. The government may pay him directly enough money to go to the international jiu-jitsu finals in Brazil as a consultant or something. Yeah, that type of thing. So he's well, gee, all I got to do is get a few lesbians in, and they'll pay for my trip to Brazil and back. So there's a lot of, you know, corruption of purpose, if you will, rather than direct corruption going on here. But what it means is there's a huge cohort of people that have not, mainly women, minorities, but mainly women in that minority. There's a huge cohort of women who have not met the objective meritorious standard. Not only met it, they haven't even come close. I mean, not remotely close. So they're running around in tournaments. Now, I've noticed that you know, particularly the clubs, the clubs where they've been handed out quite a lot of taxpayer dollars. You know, there's women running around with black belts. You know, young women running around with black belts who again, they wouldn't even make it as a beginner if they were being graded like men were. But now the rubber meets the road when these women go into tournaments. And there was an international tournament where some of the women coming from other countries and regions, you know, weren't that good, but they had met a higher meritorious standard than the local Australian women had. And the local Australian women were just having the shit kicked out of them by these other women, you know, who were far more proficient. So you're having, you know, maybe a second grade level belt, you know, this is an entry level, second grade level belt girl from a proficient school where merit does count for something, against a black belt, that is the top grade girl from a very low grade school, and the second grade girl is winning easily over the, you know, so just that indicates. Now, coming back to the boxer crying, the amount of times I've seen women who have been over promoted. I mean, it's affirmative action on steroids. Women who've been over promoted and given black belts and all sorts of medals and honors of being high powered kick-ass, you know, martial artists and so on. When in reality they're not even close, and they get beaten quite badly in the tournaments. And you know, I'm thinking of one now, and I'll come back to that. And so you get this thing where these young women, you know, they'll be in their early 20s, mid 20s maybe, that they'll just start bawling their eyes out, and they'll run into the women's toilet and just sit there for a couple of hours bawling their eyes out because they got beaten. So there's one tournament I was at where, again, this woman had a high grade belt, but she came from a very renowned leftist college where they had their own, I think it was a judo club, had their own judo club, and they just had this mandatory policy that all women, that whenever a man got given a black belt or something like that, the woman had to get one as well, or a woman had to get one. So they had this, you know, precise equity program, regardless of merit. So this highly ranked woman came into this tournament, and she was the highest ranked woman, you know, competitor in that section, and she lost every match to much lesser qualified. Every single match she lost to much lesser qualified women. In fact, she didn't even come close. She was getting beaten up almost by beginners. And so there was another one where she started bawling her eyes out and ran off into the women's toilet and stayed there for you know, God knows how long. So these are the sort of things that go on, and this is going on all across these body contact sports, whether they're box. So the drive to have equity has caused this, as it does with affirmative action and any diversity, equity, inclusion. This desire to have equity has created this very low bar entry level for women and minorities, particularly women, and this is reflected in the caliber of these people that are competing, these women who are competing. And you know, I think it's only going to get worse, but I see the boxing as this boxing business in the Olympic Games, I see that as in some way, not fully because it's a trans guy is the competitor. I see it as being part of that. If you're going to go into a biffo sort of thing, you have to be ready to take the biffo. And I don't believe that she was. And again, many of the tournaments I've been, not boxing, but many of the tournaments I've been to, martial arts, the women haven't been anywhere near ready or capable or able to match that. Now you do get the odd one who is, but the proportion is tiny. So if you get a tournament where there are 50 odd women competing, so you'd be lucky if one of them is of the caliber that matching the credential, the color of belt that she's got. You're lucky if there'd be one, but there are some. Again, I saw a lady who teaches unarmed combat. I think it was in the Air Force, and again she'd be pushing 200 pounds, and she 14, 15 stone, 90 something kilos, that sort of thing. She was she would have been she was not, I think it was karate was her thing, but she was pretty good, and she would have been a tough opponent for anybody, I think. But nonetheless, that's my take on. I mean, just on the fitness thing and talking more widely about it, I've noticed a lot of these women entering the tournaments also not fit. They're not fit enough to be competing at that level, let alone having the alleged credentials. And this is younger women. Some are fit, but some not. Now, often in these martial arts classes, you have a fitness warm-up. It is very rare that any of the female students there complete the fitness regimen. The men do, but it's rare that the women do. That straight away to me would be a disqualification. But anyway, so now looking at entry, fitness entry tests for, say, the military and the police for women, which is a good indication of what caliber of woman that they're expecting or prepared to accept, maybe more to the point. And again, we're talking equity here and diversity and quotas, and we're talking all that sort of stuff. But now I'm 61, and I looked at one of these. This is, I think, for the police. I think it was, and now they're assuming that it's going to be women in their early 20s, And so I thought, can I complete that? I mean, I'm not 20 years old anymore, but I'm in decent shape. But I thought, I wonder if I can do that. And anyway, I completed it with gas in the tank. On top of that, you can have an up to 30-minute break in between the sets of exercises you have to do, and I didn't take any of those breaks and still completed it with gas in the tank. Yet of the women that apply for these, 3/4 plus don't make the fitness test, don't make the cut. And now that's amazing. I mean, how unfit are these women that are again, they're 20 years old. I'm a fucking old guy and I can do it. So it indicates to me the lack of fitness and so on. And I think that in these sports that especially these body contact sports that are going, that these women are simply not prepared, psychologically, from a fitness perspective, and so on. Some are, but I think the case of the crying girlie in the Olympic Games, she's not. The fact she's competing against a transgender, which I don't agree with, notwithstanding. You've been a Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.